Howdy guys, Craig Summers here again. Today I wanted to kind of go over this Spikes Tactical Lower Parts Kit I picked up from local gun store, Katie Gun Gear. And I'm doing a couple builds today, and I kind of wanted to open this up, take a look at it, and do a quick review. Kind of compare it to maybe some other generic lower parts kits and kind of go from there. So like I said, I got this thing for about 75 bucks. You can find lower parts kits for a lot cheaper, but this one did have the fire control group on it and a pistol grip. Anyway, let's start out with their fire control group, standard GI. It did come packaged in some type of a little bit of lubricant film to, I guess, preserve it, and in case it sits on the shelf for a while. Wouldn't have to worry about any type of rust. It does look like the contacting surfaces, hopefully y'all can see those. Looks like the contact surfaces where the hammer meets up with the actual trigger. Looks like those do have a slight polish on them, so I'm hoping this will be a fairly smooth pull. But it's got the S forge markings on there. They seem fairly heavy in my hand, fairly heavy duty. They both have the hammer also has an S forge mark. Pistol grip looks to be some type of Magpul style that I'm guessing Spikes had somebody private label and do their stuff. A little bit of texture on the grips, got their spiders and whatnot. But overall, beats the hell out of that A2 grip with the finger grooves. I cannot stand those things. I don't know why people still make them. Cool guys, all right, let's look at the trigger springs. On some of the cheaper ones, you'll notice it'll have kind of like a matte finish and it'll look real, I guess, gritty or whatnot. Both of these trigger pins seem not necessarily polished, but very clean. They feel fairly smooth. So I'm looking for paired up with that somewhat polished trigger. Looking to have a pretty good trigger pull on this, so I really like the fact that a little bit of attention to detail they didn't. Let's go ahead and look at the safety selector. It does have the S forging. I love, if y'all seen my earlier video on the battle rifle company, I love it when a company puts the center of the throw in the middle of the safety selector switch. It makes for a much smoother operation on the safety. So really big fan of that. Seems fairly heavy, fairly dense. I really like that. Some people might say that's a minor detail, but to me that means that tells me that they've actually thought this out. Really like that safety selector, that the tang is right in the middle. Let's look at a couple of the other springs in here, a couple of the detents. One of the things, guys, that I did notice is if you've ever put together an AR, and I'll take this out and I'll actually pull out this Spikes lower. This is one of the lowers I'm about to put together. One of the easiest springs to mess up, in my opinion, is this back detent spring. And it typically happens when you are trying to thread your buffer tube on, you've got your end plate, and you're trying to, at the very, very end, you know, you can only screw that buffer tube in so much. You can't have the QD plate pressed all the way in. It has to spin with it. And so you got to be very careful not to nick up the that detent spring that's sticking out maybe about like 1/4 of an inch. I have done that before when I was fixing an issue. And so unless you have a backup, that makes for a pretty bad day. But speaking of that, I bring this up. So there are 2 takedown pin detent springs on an AR. Spikes Tactical gives you 3 springs. I think they've thought this out, and they know that the likelihood of you screwing up one of the springs, and more than likely the rear one where the buffer tube and the end plate go, that's where it's going to happen. So they give you a 3rd one. So I think that's great that they actually think about that and they put that in there. They know the likelihood of you messing that up is pretty high. All right, guys, let's look at a couple of the detents right here. Look to be tin coated. That's where that gold coloring comes from. So that kind of helps with lubricity. If you've ever had a takedown pin that's just a pain in the butt to kind of pull out and separate your upper and your lower, or that safety selector that's just, it's tough to turn on and off, this really helps with that. So I really think it's neat that they coated their detents. So we've looked at a couple of the other springs, a couple of the other ones, guys. They look really well polished, really no grittiness whatsoever. Takedown pins, pretty standard, feel fairly good. Your bolt catch, bolt release, S forge marking, that's great. Magazine catch, pretty standard. Your magazine spring or magazine catch spring, pretty standard on that. Everything else, guys, looks pretty straightforward. Trigger guard, if it does come with it. I wish they would have the contoured trigger guard, but it's really not that big of a deal. I've never had much of an issue whether I'm wearing gloves or not. So guys, I've got 3 parts left. I've got your trigger pins, I've got 2 roll pins, and then I've got your magazine release button right here. There's some features on each of these that I really like. I think Spikes, like I said, they've really thought this out, put some detail into this. Let's go to the trigger pins first. If you'll notice, like I said, if you've ever put together an AR, you'll notice something a little bit different about these trigger pins. They are not identical. This one has the grooves in the middle, and then this one has it on the outside. This is what a standard trigger pin looks like in most ARs. It has that groove in the middle and that groove on the outside. What it's designed to do is, it's more of a manufacturing process to where a manufacturer, instead of doing one product, with these, I've now got 2 products I need to create. That's 2 line items, 2 SKUs, a separate program, albeit small, for the CNC machine. They are not universal. I really like the fact that even though it's a minor detail, I really like that. The trigger pin with the groove in the middle is actually designed for your hammer. There's a little spring right in the middle. You'll see that, and it actually catches right there. And actually, guys, that is a very tight fit, very smooth. And then on this trigger connector, it's basically designed, the reason why you have the groove on the outside is it's designed for that spring, that trigger spring, to sit there and helps prevent walking of that trigger pin. You've seen some anti-rotations. That kind of is more for your, like your CMC, Timney, Geisley drop-in triggers, but that's what that's designed to do. So each trigger pin, even though it's a small detail, each one is specific to its job. Next, guys, we have our 2 roll pins. One of the things you might notice about these 2 roll pins is typically standard roll pin is a phosphate coating on there, so that's where you get your flat black from. These 2 are very slick. I don't know if they're polished. I don't know if that's a stainless steel. I really don't know, but I can tell you these are going to be very easy to go into that lower. And another cool thing on both of them, and I'm hoping y'all can see this, I'm hoping this camera picks this up. If you will actually look straight down into it, most roll pins are basically just one thin piece of metal that has been formed or rolled to create the circle. This is actually has been rolled several times. You'll actually see about 2 or 3 spirals in there. That gives these roll pins a lot more strength. Really great attention to detail, a nice added bonus. Last, guys, I want to talk about the magazine release button. So guys, a standard magazine release, you see it has the texturing on the side where it faces out. It's where you put your finger to eject the magazine, but that thread, the magazine catch, can actually thread all the way through the button. Spikes, you can only go in so far. It's basically what they call a blind hole versus a through hole. This is a through hole because you can go through it, and this is a blind hole. Okay, so guys, some issues that I see that are fairly common with people building their ARs or buying it from a company who, I guess, lack of attention to detail. I don't know if they're trying to crank them out or if the guys just don't know what they're talking about. You can basically thread the magazine release button onto the magazine catch 3 ways. It can be too tight, which is if you have that thread, if you've got a little bit of the threaded portion sticking out. Basically what that means is that puts too much tension on the magazine and will not allow it to feed properly, because you're basically restricting the cartridges, the ammunition in that magazine. So another issue I see is that they don't thread it in enough. So if you look at it from top, you can actually see that there are still some threads left to go in there. That will typically happen. The issue that you see with that is that the magazine catch has a tough time, or the magazine has a tough time staying in the gun. The magazine catch is not fully engaged, and you typically, you notice that when that happens, you have feeding issues, so that magazine is not sitting where it should be. It's sagging a little bit low. When you fire the 1 round, bolt comes back, it's coming forward to strip off another round. Since that magazine is not sitting at the correct location, that bolt has a tough time stripping off that new round. So right at about flush, maybe about 1 or 2 turns less. That makes sure that the magazine catch is grabbing that magazine well enough, and that there's not too much force to where you're restricting that magazine. What Spikes did is Spikes basically designed the stupidity out of this. It's kind of like the whole thing with gas and diesel. That's why diesel pumps are bigger, have a bigger nozzle, because you can't stick them in a standard, unleaded gasoline tank. Those people have designed the stupidity out of the system. They basically have made it idiot-proof. So what Spikes has done is they said, you know something, we'll just do a blind hole, and you can only screw it in so far. And you know something, we'll make that perfect. So I really think that's a very, very neat feature, cool design. It's also got a kind of a diamond texture where your finger goes. Everything looks good so far. And then last but not least, guys, you've got your you've got your fastener for your pistol grip. I like the fact that it's Allen versus this other parts kit is a blade or a flathead. This is a pain in the butt to get a screwdriver in there, and I hate flatheads. I'm glad the guy who invented them is dead. But Allen head makes it really easy, positive engagement, yada yada yada. So anyway, guys, it's just a quick kind of open bag review of the Spikes lower parts kit. So far, I'm really happy with it. I'm about to put it in my Spikes lower. This is actually going to be my 300 blackout build. So I'll probably do another video of me assembling this. We'll see how some of that stuff goes together and how it fits. And then I'll probably do some shooting videos or whatnot. But anyway, guys, if you like the video, go ahead and like. Subscribe, and any comments, questions, put them down below, and we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks.